All right, this is take two because the first time my audio didn't record at all. So I have written out the correct words right here. So if you constantly see me looking off, not at the camera, I've written down the correct words that I want to say, and I'm just going to be reading off them so that this comes out correctly. I have a lot to talk about today. First, I want to lay some groundwork so that everyone understands how I reached the decision I have. The Highland Games are both doing tremendously well and absolutely horribly. I know that sounds wrong, but it's true. While the games are having a bit of a resurgence after COVID, it is my prediction that without a massive change, the games will be dead by 2030. Now, what do I mean? That no games will happen in the year 2030? Of course not. But I do think that without a major change in the sport will have collapsed in a way that is unrecoverable without a total restart. And here's why I think this. Even though the number of athletes in the games is going up, the entire sport is still shrinking. In economics, if your growth doesn't beat inflation, then the company is shrinking, and we have the same effect going on here. Just because we are growing doesn't mean that we aren't becoming more niche. There are several factors that feed into this. First, the games have no central authority, both here in America and in the world at large. Anyone who puts on a kilt and celebrates Celtic culture is Celtic in my book. Unfortunately, us Celts all have problems with authority. Now, why is this so bad? The games were originally to find out the most fit, after all. This was an option to train and test soldiers clan against clan without actual violence. So since it's how we determine who should lead, why does it itself need a leader? That's a great point, and I agree. The games don't need a leader, and any authority that establishes itself over the games is more of a problem than a benefit. However, there are benefits that leadership would bring, namely consistency. We currently have athletic directors that are so incompetent that they can't set up a traditional trig correctly. The problem is, who are any of us to tell them that they are wrong? If we have no leader, then on whose authority are we calling them wrong? Second problem, there is no pipeline for athletes entering the sport. How do I get involved? Oh, well, you find a local group that does it. That's not a helpful conversation. We can't keep leaving it up to new people interested in the Highland Games to divine the correct path into the games. We need an efficient pipeline to convert interested spectators and track athletes into Highland Games athletes. This is a multi-part problem, and all of the pieces are essential. We need better recruitment, mentorship, training, easier access to games, a platform to communicate on, a clear path for progression as an athlete, and a simplified way to sign up for games. The absolute clusterfuck of a system that is finding an old guy on Facebook, sending them a message asking to be added to a game, then paying via PayPal, and hoping they have the decency to message you back saying you're on the list is a disgrace. No wonder we can't get anyone to take our sport seriously when we don't take it seriously ourselves. Final problem I'm talking about today. The pro system, as it works today in America, is flawed. And I argue it's killing the sport. The Highland Games community in America took a concept from track and field and corrupted it so profoundly that it is And I think that was the single largest mistake in the 4,000 plus year history of the games. There is no such thing as an A thrower. There is no such thing as a B or a C or a super A or an elite or a novice or a pro. At least not how Highland Games people talk. A pro is someone who makes money by doing something. It was never supposed to be a class. But since the games screwed up and forgot what flights were, it had to become one. Being a pro in the Highland Games isn't a distinction indicating that you are a truly elite athlete, so proficient in your craft that you can actually make money at what most people think is a hobby. Now, it's where the community places the throwers that are above average and everyone is tired of losing to. The problem with that statement is that I just described a flight, not a class. Flights keep things competitive at all levels so everyone can enjoy the games regardless of skill level. But because pros have hardened into a class, we have destroyed the incentive structure for them. Because we acknowledge that they are the top of the games and we pay them, there is no external incentive for them to continue improving, which leads to stagnation. And to be clear, I am not blaming the pros for this. The system is flawed and causes these problems. I think most pros become pros to pursue excellence in the games, see how far they can push the sport, and then become disillusioned by the current state of affairs over time. All right, wow, that's a lot of pessimism from the guy who makes AI walrus shitposts on Instagram. I have been working on this problem from day one on Heavy Athlete, and I think I have finally crystallized the answer. I don't believe that simply listing problems is productive. So now that I have established the problems, let me suggest my solution. First, we need to fix the pro system. As Jonathan Harding is fond of saying every time I speak with him, the death of the pro class is the death of the sport. I agree with John, but I think it is more constructive to say where the pros lead, the sport follows. So how do we fix the pro system in America? There are two steps. The first one, I think everybody will like. And the second one, I'm pretty sure everybody will hate. So, step one, we need a large prize purse game that pays by placing and for records set. In talking with athletic directors and pros and looking at other sports, I think the bare minimum that this game can theoretically be run for is $50,000 American. I think that a more realistic number is $75,000 to $100,000. Now that's not all in the prize purse, but a lot of it is going to be. What does this do for the games? It gives us a focal point that we as a community can gather around. It establishes a destination for the pipeline that we need to construct. There will be an ultimate goal to the sport. Improve, reach the pinnacle, and you too can be on television and make money. Now, how can we host such a ridiculously expensive game? I have not collected a single penny from Heavy Athlete so far. My intention has always been to take all of the money that Heavy Athlete produces and channel it back into the community. And now I believe that this is how I can actually do that. So yes, that means Heavy Athlete is going to be the sponsor and athletic director for this game. I'll circle back to that point a little later. For now, let's talk about the second part of the solution. That's the one I think everybody is going to hate. I have heard the complaints of everyone crying out for a novice class on heavy athlete. And I think I have a solution, but again, you're not going to like it. I think that we should abolish the pro class and the amateur class for both men and women. Instead, there should just be the novice and the open class. There can still be the distinction between men and women, just no more pro and amateur, novice and open. This is how Strongman does things, and it's a system that works. Anyone can compete in the open class. You may compete in the novice class until you have won a game in the novice class, or you have competed open. So, to be clear, anyone that has ever competed open is disqualified from ever competing as a novice again. Now, abolishing and rewriting classes like this is too big of a decision for a single man to make, unless they are a king or a despot. I am neither. So while Heavy Athlete is officially announcing that we will run the largest prize purse game in the history of the games, I want to put a pin in reshaping classes for now. Second, we need to establish the pipeline of progression for athletes in our sport and for athletes trying to join our sport. This has been the major thrust of Heavy Athlete so far, and still will be for some time. There needs to be an answer to every question that an athlete can have. Who's running this game? How do I sign up? What are the rules? How do I train? Where do I buy implements? What games are available near me? How do I improve and progress? How do I become elite in this sport? And what does being elite get me? Not all of these answers have to be go to heavyathlete.com to find out. But if the answer isn't go to Heavy Athlete, then the community needs to come together around me and tell me where to send people. Because Heavy Athlete is the answer to more and more questions every day. Heavy Athlete is working with coaches and pros to generate training materials and find athlete coaching. Heavy Athlete is working with companies to get implements into the hands of athletes. And Heavy Athlete is working with athletic directors to help them put on the best shows imaginable for athletes and spectators. But this brings up a major concern. HeavyAthlete.com is owned and operated by Dark Stranger LLC. I am the sole member and owner of Dark Stranger. As I endeavor to make Heavy Athlete as great and useful as it can be to the community, I am centralizing a tremendous amount of power in our sport, and it is all centralized on me. Which brings us back to the first problem I brought up. We have no central authority. I believe that we do not need a central authority. And yet I am becoming and actively working towards the goal of becoming that very central authority for the games. For a long time, I saw no other option but to accept that as a necessary evil and trust that in due time a solution would present itself. I already have far too much authority and power in a sport that I have never competed in and have no intention of ever competing in. And this power has been attracting bad actors. I don't talk about it often, but I get 3 to 5 requests a week of someone offering to help with Heavy Athlete. Most, I believe, are genuinely well-meaning people trying to give back to a community that they love. Some of them are absolute snakes. The people in the snake group fall into 2 camps. The first think that I am getting rich off of the games and want to get a piece of that pie. And the second, which I believe is far worse, is the group that wants to abuse the power that Heavy Athlete has gathered under its banner. Now, I believe that I have solutions to all of these problems. First, I can remove the bad actors that are acting out of greed by simply opening up my books. When they see that I have made no money so far, they will be scared off. I can also roll this into the question of how do we fund such a large prize purse game. I'm going to be introducing a live updating page that tracks every penny that Heavy Athlete makes. When this hits the required threshold, I will be hosting this game that I'm talking about. To prevent greedy actors, I simply have to set up 2 rules. First rule, all money that Heavy Athlete makes outside of this game has to be channeled into the game. I will release the total expense report for the game for the community to inspect. Athletic directors, if you are looking for how to run a profitable game, this can be a template for you. Second rule, I get to actually pay myself the profits from the game. Together, these rules mean that I can only make money off of the games if I have the support of the community. As the community supports me throughout the year, I can channel all of that accumulated money and goodwill into a single event that helps fix our sport. And if the community doesn't support that mission or does not think that I am the one fit to carry out that mission, then I lose all the money. This should keep the bad actors trying to worm their way in for power to a minimum. By giving the community such a powerful check to authority with the ability to vote so tangibly and publicly with their viewership of this game, that should help ensure that only people who are in this for the right reasons get involved with Heavy Athlete and this game. Because if Heavy Athlete screws up and breaks the trust of the community, I hope and expect the community to fight back. And I am giving you the power to do so. You can literally say that I don't get paid for the year by simply not watching the game. So, time to wrap this all up with a bow. I have too much power, and that presents a danger to the games. I renounce anyone who wants to control the games, including myself. The games came from a system of clans choosing sport over war. I believe that we can do that today. By hosting the largest prize purse game and tying my own profits and livelihood to it, I am handing the community the ultimate check to my power in the games. The only game that I have final say over is the one that I AD. Just like I have defended other athletic directors' rights to run games with any qualification criteria they see fit, I will run my games and help promote others. The games has no king, the games needs no king. The power to control the future of the games now lies where it belongs, in the hands of the community. I am confident that together, all of us can propel the games to new heights. I am officially putting the question of reshaping the classes on hold as I collect community feedback. I still believe it's the right choice. It is my plan after all. But it is not my decision to make. I believe that I can use this game as a model to show everyone the path forward for the games. After I host this game, then I'm going to set up a way for proponents of the current and the newly proposed classes of Novice and Open to hold a debate, and I will leave the decision on reshaping the classes up to a community vote. the same day that I am recording this, I also had to publicly condemn some of the snakes in our community trying to abuse heavy athletes' influence. I am certain that the majority of the community is the splendid and wonderful community that I have gotten to know. It is to the friendliest, kindest, rowdiest, and most anti-authoritarian community I have ever known that I am committed to serving and to whom I am placing a great deal of financial trust. I am asking you all to please support Heavy Athlete in all the ways that you have been, and financially. Please give me this opportunity to show you a new golden age of the Highland Games. Thank you.